Hello and welcome. This is Notibot ENG. Good evening. I'm your anchor. Tonight, we bring you a briefing on the latest developments in the ongoing conflicts around the world. The situation in Ukraine remains volatile, with Russia launching a massive drone attack in response to Ukraine's eastertruce offer. Meanwhile, tensions with Iran continue to escalate, with warnings of a strike on the Bushehr nuclear plant and U.S. President Trump's claims of progress in the conflict. We'll break down the latest news and updates from these and other hotspots. A devastating escalation in the ongoing Ukraine conflict has unfolded, as Russia launches a surprise drone attack just days after President Zelensky's eastertruce offer. Russian forces have responded to Ukraine's eastertruce offer with a drone attack, targeting parts of western and central Ukraine. The attack, which involved over 700 drones, many of which are Iranian-designed Shahid drones, was described by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy as a terrorist operation against the country's energy sector and infrastructure. This latest development comes as Zelenskyy had spoken to U.S. negotiators about the possibility of an Easter ceasefire, which he believes could be a signal that diplomacy can be successful. The Ukrainian president had met with U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, Donald Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner, and U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham, as well as NATO's Secretary General Mark Rutte, in a call that aimed to resolve the four-year conflict. Zelenskyy expressed gratitude for the U.S. efforts to bring about peace and said that the Ukrainian and U.S. teams had agreed to strengthen a document outlining U.S. security guarantees for any future peace deal. This document is seen as crucial to unlocking a reliable end to the war. The rejection of Zelensky's eastertruce offer by Russia's foreign ministry as a PR stunt highlights the ongoing challenges in diplomatic efforts to resolve the conflict. The U.S. and Russia remain at an impasse over key issues, including the question of land, with Ukraine refusing to cede to Moscow's demands that it relinquish the eastern region of Donbass. This stalemate has led to ongoing tensions between the U.S. and Russia, with NATO also drawing into the conflict. As tensions escalate over Iran's nuclear facilities, the country's leaders are now warning a potential attack on the Bushehr plant would be a war crime. Iran has warned that a U.S. or Israeli strike on its Bushehr nuclear power plant would be a war crime under international law. This warning comes after a recent report by the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, that suggested Tehran may have resumed uranium enrichment. However, Iran's ambassador to the IAEA, Reza Najafi, has strongly denied these claims. According to Najafi, any strike on the Bushehr plant would be a war crime and a violation of international law. This statement reflects Iran's deep-seated concerns about its nuclear facilities being targeted by external actors. The Bushehr plant, which is located on the Caspian coast, is a key strategic asset for Iran, providing it with nuclear energy and potential military capabilities. The IAEA report in question, which was published on June 10, 2025, found that Iran had resumed uranium enrichment activities at its Natanz nuclear facility. However, Iran's government has consistently denied that it has resumed enrichment and has instead accused Western powers of trying to undermine its nuclear program. The situation surrounding Iran's nuclear program is highly complex and sensitive, with deep roots in regional politics and historical rivalries. Any military action taken against Iran's nuclear facilities would have significant and far-reaching consequences, potentially drawing in other countries and escalating the situation. The international community remains closely watching the situation as tensions between Iran and the West continue to escalate. As tensions escalate in the Middle East, former U.S. President Donald Trump has revealed the progress of the U.S.-led military campaign in Iran. President Trump has addressed the nation in a televised speech, stating that the core strategic objectives of the ongoing war in Iran are nearing completion. The speech came after a day of market volatility, with U.S. stock futures falling in anticipation of a possible resolution. Trump warned that if Iran does not strike a deal with the U.S., the military will target the country's electric generating plants, which would have severe consequences for the Iranian economy. Trump's address was met with a mixed reaction from markets, with crude oil futures jumping in response to the president's words. The U.S. president encouraged countries dependent on oil from the Middle East to take the Strait of Hormuz without a plan for the U.S. to reopen it, and suggested that they should buy U.S. oil for now. Russia's military escalation in Ukraine takes a deadly turn, as a massive drone attack unfolds amidst stalled peace talks and mounting international pressure. Russian forces have launched a massive drone barrage on Ukrainian cities, marking a significant escalation in the ongoing conflict between the two nations. According to reports, hundreds of drones were launched from the Crimean Peninsula, targeting major cities including Kyiv, Kharkiv, and Lviv. The Ukrainian military has confirmed that several drones have been shot down, but many more are believed to have survived and continue to pose a threat. The attack has been condemned by world leaders, with NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg calling it a serious escalation of the conflict. The United States has also condemned the attack, with President Joe Biden stating that it poses a serious threat to civilians and Ukraine's sovereignty. The attack is believed to have been carried out by Russian-backed separatist groups, with Moscow denying any involvement. However, the scale and intensity of the attack suggests that Russia is seeking to exert pressure on Ukraine and disrupt its government. The attack highlights the growing risks of a wider conflict between Russia and the West. As peace talks between Ukraine, Russia, and other international mediators stall, the situation on the ground continues to deteriorate. The international community is on high alert, with many nations increasing their military presence in Eastern Europe in response to the escalation. The long-term implications of this attack are still unclear, but one thing is certain: the situation in Ukraine is spiraling out of control. In a surprise move, President Donald Trump is poised to make a significant announcement about the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. U.S. President Donald Trump has addressed the nation, stating that the U.S. is on the cusp of ending the war in Iran. In a 20-minute televised speech, Trump said his core objectives are nearing completion and called on countries reliant on the Strait of Hormuz to take action to secure it. The U.S. president claimed that the country doesn't need the strategic waterway, sparking concerns among allies. This statement has led to a rise in global oil prices to $105 a barrel. The comments have been met with skepticism, particularly from Iranian officials, who have accused the U.S. of making empty threats. The situation in the region remains tense, with ongoing strikes in several countries. Meanwhile, in Cuba, over 10 million people are enduring power cuts after the national electrical grid collapsed. The BBC's analysis editor will examine President Trump's mixed messages on the war with Iran in a forthcoming report. In a separate development, Venezuela has won its first-ever World Baseball Classic title, defeating the U.S. 3-2 in the championship game. The victory marks a significant moment for the Venezuelan baseball team, which has been struggling in recent years. The team's success has been attributed to the country's increased investment in sports infrastructure and training programs. The win has been hailed as a symbol of national pride and a potential catalyst for economic growth. Following a series of tense statements from the U.S. president, oil prices have surged globally as investors respond to the escalating situation in the Middle East. Pakistan's government is actively pursuing diplomatic efforts to ease tensions in the Middle East, with the country's foreign ministry stating its full support for potential U.S.-Iran talks in Islamabad. The ministry's spokesman, Tahir Andrabi, said Pakistan had the backing of Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Egypt, and Kuwait in its efforts to contain the situation and prevent military escalations. Andrabi also revealed that Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif had spoken with his Iranian counterpart Masoud Pezeshkian, briefing him on Pakistan's peace initiative and stressing the need to build trust to facilitate talks and mediation. The U.S.-Iran conflict has been escalating in recent weeks, with the Trump administration and Tehran expressing a desire for a diplomatic resolution. However, their demands appear to be far apart, and Iran has denied any direct negotiations with the U.S. President Trump's claims that Iran's president had asked for a ceasefire were quickly denied by Tehran. The conflict has also sparked tensions with other countries, including China, which has accused the U.S. and Israel of being the root cause of the Strait of Hormuz blockage. China's Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Mao Ning stated that the U.S. and Israeli military operations against Iran were the cause of the blockage, saying that it was illegal. The U.S. has called on countries to seize the key shipping lane, but China's comments suggest that the issue is more complex than initially thought. The situation remains volatile, with many countries calling for restraint and diplomacy to prevail. That's all for today's news briefing. We'll keep you updated on the latest developments in Ukraine, Iran, and the U.S. Middle East tensions. Thank you for watching. If you want to stay informed, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. We'll see you in the next briefing. Until then, we remain your name, bringing you the world's top news stories.